Hey, what's up everybody? With 2024 ending, let's take a look at the miniature games to look forward to in 2025. I'll be looking at the established titans of the industry, but also some lesser known players that I think will become bigger than ever before. Now, before we kick this off, let's talk a bit about what happened in 2024, because boy, oh boy, there was a lot going on in the industry this year. 2024 was the year that I started this YouTube channel, and we saw the rise and fall of a few of the biggest names in the miniature tabletop gaming industry. We saw the downfall of games like AMG's Star Wars X-Wing and Star Wars Armada. Apparently a lot of people saw this coming, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it was once one of the biggest miniature tabletop games in the entire world. The community took it upon themselves though to not let this game just die, so more on X-Wing a little bit later. And staying with Atomic Mass Games for now, Star Wars Legion saw the beginning of a new edition that is set to roll out over the period of a year. The rollout started this summer with new rules and print-to-play cards and will be completed this summer. I shared my initial thoughts on this, I wasn't too positive about it, video can be checked out right here. And to this day, I still get questions from people who bought a starter set and are now confused about the state of the game, and I understand why. Still though, you will find Star Wars Legion pretty high up the list of games that I'm looking forward to. My hopes are pretty high. On the other side of the pond, over at Games Workshop, Warhammer Underworlds got a total reset. The entire game changed, and the Warhammer Underworlds that me and many people played and loved is gone now. Your cards are now unusable, as are some of your warbands. And also from Games Workshop, right around the time that I wanted to get into Middle-earth strategy battle games, a new edition was announced. And this is major news because the current system has been going on for, I think, 2 decades now. The new rules are teased on the Warhammer community website every now and then, and I am following these updates very closely. With a new edition of Age of Sigmar, we saw the rise of Age of Sigmar Spearhead, a smaller scale game mode geared towards beginners. But how does the game hold up after a few months? And of course, we got a new version of Kill Team, one that I was and still am very excited for, especially with the introduction of solo and co-op mode. But we'll also talk about that a little bit later. Let's just kick off the list for games that I'm looking forward to in 2025, and well, maybe you are as well. So you, as the viewer, should consider this list as being in a random order. I numbered it to give you an insight on what my personal favorites are. Do you miss certain games on the list, or do you want to make a case for a game that is on the list? Please let me know in the comments below. I'd love to know about even more wargames. Number 10. Warhammer 40k. Now, I couldn't make a list without including the biggest war game out there, Warhammer 40k. I have 2 40k armies and I played just a little bit of 10th edition, and I'm planning to play some more games in the future. But why is it so low on the list? Well, I recently concluded that 40k asks too much of me. It requires too much. It requires too much time. It requires too much money. And to be honest, it requires too much headspace for me. 40k can feel like a drag to me sometimes. The book diving, the constant updates, keeping up with special rules, keeping up with erratas. It feels like almost a study to me. And all of this would be okay to me if the game finally reinvented itself by using things like alternating activations, for example. I mean, come on. Instead, you might see that a favorite freshly painted mini of yours get destroyed round 1 without you being able to do anything about it. I concluded that 40k is not for me at the moment. Now, none of this means that you shouldn't play the game either. There's a bunch of good reasons to get into Warhammer 40k in 2025. You'll always have someone to play with. The community is huge and people are playing 40k in your city right now. Maybe not right now, but you know what I mean. Model range is huge. There is a bunch of factions with enormous range of units to choose from, and most of them are truly awesome. Established. 40k is the granddaddy of wargaming. There is so much lore, so much to immerse yourself into that the possibilities are near endless, if the game doesn't hold you back. Number 9. Age of Sigmar Spearhead. I always felt the same with all of the above for Age of Sigmar. But when Age of Sigmar announced their Spearhead game mode, I got interested. In Spearhead, you pit a single box against another box on a smaller battlefield than regular-sized Age of Sigmar. It was made as a gateway into the big game, and the biggest question that popped off when this released was, will this hold up in a few months? It's either staying in the GW scope or it will be abandoned and forgotten about, since the plan was to get you into the main game of Age of Sigmar, not into keep playing Spearhead. So why should you play Age of Sigmar Spearhead? Beautiful minis and cool factions. I was looking at the Night Haunt myself. Easy to pick up. The rules are slimmed down from regular Age of Sigmar, and the board is small enough to fit any table, basically. And people play it. Like 40k, lots of people play Age of Sigmar. Number 8. Warhammer Underworlds. Now, for me to include this in the list, we have to forget about what I just mentioned before. GW resetting the entire game. Let's treat this as the new game that it is right now. Warhammer Underworlds is a miniature tabletop game based on the previously mentioned Age of Sigmar universe that combines fast-paced combat with some card game mechanics. You have unit cards, ploy cards and objective cards, and you'll use these specialty dice. It is really easy, simple and fun. The new edition that came out in November of 2024 seems to have slimmed down some of the rules bloat that sneaked in over the past couple of years. It's also one of those games that is perfect if you hang out with some friends, maybe non-wargaming buddies. It's super easy to learn, and you get some of the best sculpts in any Games Workshop game, and most of them are usable in Age of Sigmar as well. So why should you play Underworlds? It's easy to pick up, non-wargamer friendly, the new starter set looks solid, and warbands are actually a perfect weekend hobby project. Number 7. Warhammer The Old World. This was a game that I was super excited about when it was announced. I have fond memories of visiting old Games Workshop stores in awe of the regiments of fantasy figures on display. The Old World is one of my favorite fantasy settings of all time, and over the years of being in the hobby, I collected a small dwarven army. And this seemed like the perfect opportunity to finally see the boys in action. But like with many GW games, the book diving aspect is what actually turned me off to playing this game. And at the time I chose Star Wars Legion instead. Another thing to note is that this game can get very expensive very quickly, not unlike some of the other games mentioned before. Now, why would you want to play Warhammer The Old World? Nostalgia! We have finally returned to the Old World in a rank and file fashion. Also, it has a decent player base and some cool new miniatures for specifically the Old World. Finishing my dwarf army is still one of my goals, and when I do, I might get around to playing some games with them. Number 6. Trench Crusade. Trench Crusade took the miniature gaming world by storm after successfully launching a Kickstarter that was backed up by 20,000 pledges and 3.3 million of their hard-earned dollars, making it the most successful miniature Kickstarter ever, I think. And while this may come as a surprise, when you see the names collaborating on this project, you'll see why this game has such a big appeal to so many people. While I personally just found out about Trench Crusade, I definitely think this is a big shakeup. I mean, we all know GW's business practices are questionable, to say the least. And Trench Crusade coming in like a wrecking ball might be just what the industry needs. So why should you play Trench Crusade? Art and lore are amazing, it's grimdark in its purest form. Low barrier of entry. The rules, which are still in beta I believe, are downloadable for free, and it's so-called miniature agnostic, which means you can use any miniature you like. They will have a full range of minis spread over the current 6 factions, but you could also use those new Deathcore of Creek models GW so conveniently released a couple of days ago. I'm just kidding, that's just coincidence. Number 5. Conquest. A game that took me by surprise when I met one of its ambassadors at Spellenspectakel this year. In a full interview, which can be checked out right here, I talked to Kevin, who explained to me how Conquest is playable as both a rank and file army game and a smaller size skirmish game, both using the same miniatures. And talking about those miniatures, they are pretty awesome. The rules are free online and always updated since the unit cards come with QR codes that take you right to the information that you need. Parabellum Games seems to care a lot about the community input, not only for balancing but actually creating the story in the Conquest world. I personally like the 100 Kingdoms faction the most, classic human knights, but there's a lot more to choose from, like f***ing orcs on dinosaurs, what the f***? So why play Conquest? It is 2 games in one, it is community friendly and it's getting bigger and bigger all around the globe. If you like to see more content, Play on Tabletop does some coverage on this game every few months, including a how to play video. Number 4. X-Wing. It's no secret that I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, so flying your X-Wing, Han Solo in the Millennium Falcon, or any other of the popular ships within the vast universe seems like a dream come true. The ship movement mechanics makes you feel that you're dogfighting it out in a galaxy far, far away. Like mentioned before, the support of this game has officially ended. There will be no new miniatures produced, so they are now officially limited. But none of this means that the game is dead now. In fact, I made an entire video about why I started playing X-Wing after it was pronounced dead. Now, before we get into the honorable mentions, I'd like to take this moment to state the obvious. If you like this video, please give it a like. Consider subscribing. I do content pretty much every week. And maybe let me know what games you are looking forward to in 2025 in the comments below. So, before we forget something, I think I forgot to mention Middle-earth strategy battle game. Well, this is one of the games that I'm looking forward to as well. So there you go. Honorable mentions. Arkworld, a fantasy skirmish game played on a 2x2 with a solo mode and some of the coolest looking minis out there. Relic Blade, a fantasy skirmish game with metal minis, cards and an easy game system. Dead Man's Hand, a western skirmish game with lots of pew pew pew. A Song of Ice and Fire, a rank and file Game of Thrones with lots of typical Game of Thrones fuckery on the side. Literally on the side. Bored. Blackout, a sci-fi skirmish game with awesome aesthetics developed by actual badasses. Legions Imperialis, tiny models, huge battles. Blood Bowl, not going anywhere, still one of the most fun miniature games in the world. I wish I had time. Mordheim, I just found out there's several campaigns in my area, will play this year. Battletech, mech combat with an established rule set. Stargrave and Frostgrave, I don't know anything about this game other than the fact that a lot of people seem to like it. Same goes for Infinity. Shatterpoint, Star Wars skirmish where nobody dies. Marvel Crisis Protocol, like Shatterpoint but with Marvel characters. And now, for the top 3 games that I look forward to play in 2025. And maybe you do too. Number 3. Kill Team. It is 40k skirmish mode. A new edition of Kill Team just released and it's safe to say it is the best, most streamlined yet. Although the kill teams are not as customizable as they once were, this is the perfect entry point into the 40k universe. The rules are deep, but easy to understand after 1 or 2 games, and the starter set that just released is, in my opinion, one of the best starter boxes GW has ever released. If you want to dive deeper into this game, consider picking up the Hive Storm box. The amount of terrain in this box is amazing, especially value-wise. Now, where is Star Wars Legion? Where is Star Wars Legion? Number 2. Star Wars Legion. I started playing Star Wars Legion in 2022 and only recently stopped playing it for a little while. In my opinion, it is a war game done right. It is not complicated to get into. It used to be pretty cheap. And there's a certain flow in this game that is really hard to understand or explain if you haven't played it before. I mean, I don't know, it just feels natural and it is to this day my favorite army-sized miniature war game. Period. Star Wars Legion has been the most covered topic on my channel, but you might have seen a slight decrease in content about it. And the reason is what I talked about before. We are in a phase between 2 editions. AMG announced a new edition and rebranding this summer, but decided it was going to take a year to roll out. Now, I can only applaud that the new cards and the new rules are free, and seriously, I know a lot of people who are playtesting the living out of this game. But this transition is pretty messy. I mean, there's arguments for a lot of things in this whole discussion, but if anything, I wish that AMG would just have released this edition as somewhat of a playtest before rolling out a new edition and just ditching the old one from one day to another, basically. I am beyond excited for a new starter set to get released and for hopefully the card packs to be released as well. And for now, all I can say is, yes, I am super excited. I already have a Rebel army. I played a couple of new edition games. But if you're a new player, wait for the summer to come along. So without further ado, it is time for the number one in my list for games to get excited about for 2025. I now realize that I should have done like a little line in the beginning of the video. Like, number one might surprise you. Yeah. Number one. Moonstone. This game has been on my radar for years. The miniatures are some of the best looking in the entire tabletop miniature space, and Goblin King Studios even got awarded the best game system and best miniatures at the UK Game Expo in 2023. In Moonstone, you drop 7 D4 dice on the table. The number on the dice tells 2 to 4 players how difficult they are to harvest. In alternating activations, the player takes turns moving their troop around a 3x3 battlefield, fighting over the Moonstones. Every single model in your troop is a character in and of itself. I never picked up this game because I was under the impression that I would be the only one in the Netherlands playing this game, but apparently I was wrong. I met some people from A Kleine Wereld who gave me a demo of Moonstone. The rules were explained to me in 5 minutes, no book diving, no studying. It was a breeze. And then my girlfriend came up to me saying that she really liked the models. She's a non-wargamer, so I was like, yeah, ding 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 ding. So I picked up the starter set. 2 weeks later, I headed out to the store to play in a 4 versus 4 free-for-all. And guys, let me tell you, Moonstone is the most fun I had in a miniature tabletop game in a very, very long time. The game system is very simple, but when you dive into the possible combinations between factions and keywords within those factions, you can really make it as deep as you like. Not to mention that there's no dice rolls other than at the start of each round. Because with combat you use either a melee or arcane deck. I mean, I would love to tell you so much more about this game, but I will do that in a separate video to give it the proper explanation that it 100% deserves. So there we have it. This was a lengthy one, and you know, the conclusion of all of this is there's lots of games out there. There's lots of games out there, and I want to play all of them. But there's going to be a few focuses for me, and I think it's going to be like the top 3, maybe. I think definitely Moonstone and Star Wars Legion, and you'll probably see some of that content back on the channel as well. Did I miss any game? Is there something you really missed from my list? You know, again, it is my personal list. I don't know all the games out there. Let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed it, maybe subscribe. And I will see you guys later.